When I first got into online business 8 years ago now, I made all the mistakes that newbies make when you get into copywriting. I had a business in the natural health space where people were quite spiritual, and I thought there's no way that people are going to appeal to pain points. They're too evolved for that. But as I was writing emails and sales pages the way I thought I should write, nobody was buying. And because I wasn't doing this really important thing, which is appealing to people's emotional triggers. So what are emotional triggers? Things like pain points. If people are in pain, then they're much more likely to take action and purchase your particular thing if you can show that you can solve that pain. But there's also these toward and away from motivators that people have, which is toward pleasure and away from pain. So taking along the same steps as the pain points, but people also want to move towards something as well. If we can appeal to these, plus a couple of other things, which I'm going to show you in just a second, then we can start to produce copy in a much more appealing way so that people take the action that we want them to take. And with all of the different AI these days, it's so much easier now to find out what those pain points are. And not only that, we can now take it a step further and basically automate all of the copy that we want to create. I have a dashboard here that I built myself, a complete workflow, where once we plan a marketing campaign, like a workshop launch or an online course launch, we've got automations that will generate the entire copy for that particular campaign on autopilot. I don't even need to jump in there anymore. And it is actually really high quality copywriting, not like what you get from ChatGPT. So in this particular video, I'm going to take you through two different scenarios. One, if you're still using ChatGPT, then I'll give you a GPT that you can use that you would want to use before every single marketing campaign to make sure you can speak to these pain points. Two, I'm going to show you how I've taken it a step further. And many people are calling it a much more advanced way to creating copy that allows you to achieve the same thing by building an emotional triggers report, but it takes it a step further and then automates all of the copywriting after that as well. So let's dive in. Now, first I'm going to begin here inside ChatGPT and inside this particular GPT here. If you do want access to this GPT, just go to myname.com, so mitchasser.com, and you can sign up here and I'll send you a spreadsheet with this particular GPT plus a few others. And you'll get access to, I put a newsletter out each week where I talk a lot more in depth about a lot of these more advanced strategies as well. So make sure you sign up to that. But inside this particular customer insight report, basically we just want to click here to begin with the first step. And it's going to ask us a bunch of questions that are important for what we need in order to begin writing really good copy with ChatGPT for this particular campaign. Now, what happens if we don't do it this way? If we don't do it this way, then you have to rely on just prompting alone. And just prompting alone isn't a great way to be using ChatGPT. That's how most people use it, and that's why most people's copy sucks that they get out of ChatGPT. In this particular newsletter that you can see right here, the benefits of the OpenAI API, I actually talked about a framework that I follow every single time, which is prime, prompt, and proof. So priming involves setting the stage for the AI by providing it with specific, relevant background information of you, your business, your campaign, your customer, what are your unique selling points, and we're going to go through all of that in just a second, so that it can have some really solid information to work with. If you provide it with good quality information, it'll produce good quality outputs. Then you have your prompt, which is a whole skill of its own, which is prompting is the process of giving clear, concise instructions or questions, guiding it to generate specific type of content or answer you need. And that also includes training data as well. And then proofing. I think this is where most people go wrong, is that they think that the output ChatGPT is going to give is just what they should run with. In other words, they don't really know how to identify what good copy is. Proofing is essentially just editing, going through and removing maybe 20 to 30% of what is produced and making sure that you have really accurate, relevant, concise information as your final product. So back to this report, these are the things that we need to complete. So I'm just going to copy these. The GPT is supposed to ask these one at a time, but anyway, let's fill them out in total. So let's go with the campaign name. So I have a couple of businesses that I'm running. The next one coming up is I'm actually doing Facebook ads for virtual summits. Let's just call it that. Let's call it meta ads for virtual summits. How the campaign helps our clients. So we want to describe in detail the offer, how it provides value, what problems do they solve, what unique solutions do you have. This workshop helps virtual summit hosts scale their events with meta ads. We have spent 8 years testing and iterating hundreds of ad copy variations to find what works, plus the most effective method to scale the ads in a short time frame. Your ideal customer. So our ideal customer is a virtual summit host or agency who want to scale their events with meta ads in them using tailored strategies specifically for summits. Your brand identity. So our brand identity is my brand identity is more of the magician or wizard, someone who builds systems and education. We provide high level education. Someone who builds systems. We provide high level education for business owners who want to learn each part of the process. Your writing style. We write in short, clear, and concise sentences. We do not use any fluff. We're relatable and in second person. Should write, it's actually going to come from me, which is I. This is actually one of the most important parts of this particular flow is your writing style of any prompt. If you give ChatGPT or any of the AIs your writing style, and specifically this next sentence that I'm about to write, it'll produce way better outputs. I write in 6th grade writing level language, 6th grade language writing level. Unique selling points. The virtual method for scaling ads has helped brands generate over 1 leads for their virtual summits. So I've been doing this for years now in all types of different industries. You could have put in additional information, but it doesn't really matter. And now it's going to go through and give us the top 3 pain points. As it's doing that, like I said, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've helped tons of different niches and brands launch their virtual summits. Virtual summits have been the best lead generation strategy that I've ever seen. And they also take a lot of work. So we want to make sure that we're using ads in the most effective way possible to make the most of the hard work that we're doing for our virtual summits. And the best way to do that for our ads, but basically we want to elicit the top 3 pain points. So the top 3 pain points that it thinks is I'm struggling to reach a wider audience from my virtual summits. Every virtual summit host says that because what they think is they can rely on affiliates, but affiliates won't promote it. So relying on affiliates is actually the worst strategy that you could ever do. I've tried running ads before, but they just burn through cash without real results. Absolutely. And they are our perfect client. So we absolutely want to appeal to that pain point. Scaling my virtual summit feels like hitting a wall. I don't know what steps to take next. Usually it's actually, I don't know what steps to take first. People just don't know where to begin. A lot of the clients that I've had, but that would be pretty solid to begin with. So it gives some context as to why we would use it. But ultimately now, if we're happy with that, we would just say yes. And it's going to now move into the other part of this, which is our away from motivators and our toward motivators. So the away from motivators is away from pain, but as you can see here, there is a slight nuance in what is a motivator. So these up the top here, we're talking like more specific contextual or like specific parts of the process that are their pain points. Whereas now in the motivators, we're talking a much more around the emotions, so fear, anxiety, and worry. So combining both of those is the perfect way to begin writing copy. So fear of wasting money on ineffective advertising, anxiety over being unable to scale their events, worry about falling behind their competitors. But then also people may not always be in fear and they do want their desires as well. So desire to reach a massive audience and have impact, aspiration for high ROI, ambition to master digital advertising and scaling. So these 3 things here in each one, toward and away from motivators, and then these pain points, you should absolutely copy to a document and then refer to them when you were writing copy for any campaign that you're coming up with. And it talks about where you could use these if you wish. Then there are a couple of other things that I ask it to report on, which I don't always use, but it's interesting to look at, which it is. So the first one here is common phrases or angles you may want to avoid. So the ultimate guide to secrets revealed. If you look at what people are writing when they just use ChatGPT, these are the types of things they're writing. The ultimate guide to this, or secrets revealed, ... And it's just overdone. So that we want to avoid. And overpromising results. So when you see these ads on Facebook, do you really believe that somebody's getting 20x return on ad spend these days? No one believes it. And usually they're full of crap unless they're doing high ticket and then they're actually closing all their sales on stage or on a phone. So it's not really 20x ROAS anyway, because then you got to pay your sales staff, your marketing staff, your closers, your setters, your operations team. That's why overpromising results actually doesn't really work anymore. And any technical jargon. So talking about ROAS for people that are quite new to advertising is a little bit too much. If you're talking like CPL, cost per sale, CPA, cost per click, they're probably not the things that you want to be talking about in your copy, but a lot of newbies do. So social influencers, what are the things that influence us? So case studies and stories, if we can leverage those. Influencer partnerships, do you have people in your network who you could use as an influencer? And then community engagement as well. So if you're actively participating and answering questions and stuff, people are going to start to trust you more. And then expectations and preferences, so actionable insights over theory, transparency and authenticity, and then flexibility and customization. So these are all the things that they want. So you would then take any of these that resonate and put that into that Google Doc as well. And then you can reference all of those things in the Google Doc or before you begin writing your copy. The other thing you could do is you could just copy all of those things, paste it into a new thread in ChatGPT and just say, store this information and I'll give you a new prompt soon. And then you just store all of that information, hit enter, and then you can ask it to write your copywriting from there. So that's like the basic beginner's way to produce this type of report and then this type of copy. But there's actually an advanced way as well, and I want to show you that right now. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, then I have been building my own workflows. Essentially, it's my own software in Airtable and Make.com and automating so much of what we do into the AI APIs so that we can save time and move faster. And right now, about 80% of what I used to do has actually been automated, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And the first part of this was putting out things to help with newsletter, YouTube, podcast creations, blog posts, and other lives and transcripts to create a whole bunch of stuff, which people are very impressed with, but it was still similar to a lot of these micro SaaS tools out there. It's been done before in a nice wrapper. The thing here was, though, instead of me paying $49 for a tiny little problem getting solved, I could then just spend money with the API for a fraction of the cost and get it done exactly how I wanted to do. So I didn't have to have a dozen different micro SaaS tools. But while this is impressive, there's actually something else that's even more impressive. And I'm building this out right now, which is how can I take a full marketing campaign? So like we do a lot of live workshops over Zoom that will sell for anywhere between $149 to $249. The question I've been asking myself is how can I create an onboarding form with our hosts where they complete all of the questions and then we turn those questions into all of the assets we need. All of the website copy, all of the email copy, all of the ad copy, and then social media if we want to as well. Plus reminder emails, plus any part of the stage that needs copy, I believe we can automate. That was my theory, and I was right. So I'm not going to go super in depth with this. I'm going to make another video in future when I have things absolutely perfect for this particular workflow. But if we have a look here, there are a bunch of records or a bunch of columns across in this particular table. And all this does is it takes in all of the information we need and then begins to produce the copy fully automatically. And part of that process is first doing what I just showed you there. So what we actually do in this workflow, instead of having to go into ChatGPT and do it all manually, we trigger it through a Make.com automation in order to then produce the copy. So let me bring up that automation and show you exactly what I mean. So we've got it here called emotional trigger. And eventually that'll be automated so that when a form gets submitted, it just picks up all of the information itself, drops it into make.com, and then sends it back to Airtable so that when I log in or when my team logs in, the first part of the process is actually done. Then we would just need to hit play, or you need to activate the next step, and I'll write the website copy, and then another button to write the email copy, and a final button to write the ad copy, which is absolutely mind-blowing. What it actually does is it begins with a webhook. So that button that I just showed you, that triggers the automation, and it sends the information, or it gets the information from that particular record or that particular row, and then begins to send it through the OpenAI API. So this is the OpenAI API. You just connect in with your key, and we're using GPT-4 here. It's the latest model at the current time. And then your system prompt. So system prompt is giving it a little bit of context before you give it the actual prompt. So I'm just saying pain points are the most effective motivators to use when writing copy. And then the task is to get the top 3 pain points for this customer avatar. And I'm pulling in the workshop agenda and outcomes, how the campaign helps clients and the ideal customer, and any USPs. So these are all the things that got filled in the form by the host or by the person planning this particular workshop. And then it gets fed into here, elicits the pain points, and then feeds them back into our Airtable record for us to use with the copy. Then we do the same thing for our motivators. So I give it a little bit of information on what toward motivators are and away from motivators. Then the task is to grab all of that same information and give us the top 3 toward and top 3 away from motivators. Again, we then feed that back into Airtable to be used later. And then the emotional report, which are the things that we went through at the end there. So basically what happens here is, again, using GPT-4, it references all the same information, but this time it also picks up the pain points and the motivators. And then we're asking it to synthesize all of that, give us the common phrases or angles to avoid, the social influences, and all of those other things we went through, and then send that back into Airtable as well. So these come back into here. So we've got the pain points here, 1, 2, and 3. We've got the emotional motivators here, 1, 2, and 3 for each. And then we've got our report for common phrases and to avoid, social influences, and expectations. So all of that is fed back into here, which we can then reference at any other stage throughout this workflow. So for example, as we come down here much further, we've got this create website copy prompt or automation, which then inside that, I not only have write copy for this part of the website, and then I give it instructions for whatever part of the website I want it to write copy for, but I say reference the pain points first and a few other things and all of these other things that we did in the planning stage, and write copy that appeal to these pain points, that appeal to these toward away from motivators and so forth. So and then as soon as you hit this, the entire website copy. So we've got some website copy here that I need to approve. So 4 sections of the website done in probably 3 to 4 minutes maximum. And it probably costs anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50 to create, to produce using the API. So this honestly just blows my mind that this works. I shout from the rooftops every single week in my newsletter and in these videos of how good it actually is, but I still don't see a lot of people using it, which blows my mind. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'm using it. That's all I care about. If you're using it too, I'd love to hear what you're working on. Comment down below, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.